Hey friends, welcome to this live session. My name is Elena Motonono, and I work with online language teachers, helping them to teach languages more sustainably through voice chats and Google Docs. This, of course, is the first step. There are many more options after that. But if you do not know how to move away from one-to-one classes in a sustainable way, or if you've tried online courses and they haven't worked for you, I want to invite you to try out different options, and online teaching through voice chats and through Google Docs may just be one of those options. So I'm very excited today to be here after a little break and talk to you about three things that you do not want to do when you create and sell a program that is based on voice chats. And voice chat based programs or Google Docs programs really help your students develop their productive skills. These are the types of skills that cannot be developed by themselves, right? So, you can work on your reading on your own. You can watch videos and improve your listening skills on your own. But in order to produce, in order to speak, you need to practice speaking. In order to write, you need to practice writing. We all know that. And our students, unfortunately, do not know that. And many of them are trying to help or improve their speaking by watching Netflix, which, of course, doesn't work that way. And so, in the work that I do, I help online language teachers organically move away from the one to one work so that they can have the capacity, increase their capacity of bringing more students to work with them and also help their students get better results. But when the teacher is not used to teaching outside of one-to-one classes, when the teacher is not used to trading time for money, it's quite common for them to make certain mistakes in that, which mistakes are actually quite common. But I wanted to talk about three most common ones because if you have those, or if you just heard me speak somewhere about teaching through voice chats or teaching through Google Docs, and then you rush into doing the work and moving your students to a more sustainable teaching format, you may find yourself making these mistakes. And it's not that mistakes are bad in any way. It's just that when you make those mistakes and you discover that, oh, it's not working, it's very easy for you to give up and never try it again. That was the case with me when I first tried out asynchronous programs or teaching through voice chats and Google Docs. I found that I did all these three things that I'm about to talk about, and I discovered that, oh, it was not worth it. And then I dropped it and I never picked it up again for like 2 more years until I had my second child. And I was like, there is absolutely no way that I will be able to teach from morning till night, 5, 7 students a day. And so there are three things that teachers usually forget about, or they may not know these things. They may not be aware of these things. And these things are not intuitive. So it's not something that is a given, like, oh, this is how you do it. With one-on-one classes, things are pretty intuitive. People pay you money for 5 lessons. You show up at a certain time when the student books the lesson, you go from beginning till the end, it's done. Now, if it's something that is not one-on-one, it creates a lot of um, vagueness. And it might be you may not know what to do or how to go about it, how to teach more sustainably, and your student doesn't know what to expect. It's like the blind leading the blind. And in the end, it not only makes this format ineffective, it also makes you lose confidence. So, three things that teachers do. The first mistake that is not, is not really helpful, that is going to like really dampen their experience of teaching through voice chats, is that it's creating before selling. So you create um, before you sell something. And that comes from our experience with online courses, which with online courses, you also don't create before you sell, um, unless you have tried and run this program for a while. And I'm not talking about online courses. There's more materials on this channel about online courses. But for the most part, if a person, if a teacher uh, intuitively is trying to sell something, they feel like if I want to sell without creating it first, then I'm kind of tricking or not being honest with my clients. But a program based on voice chats or Google Docs does not really need anything extra. That's why it is so easy to put together and bring it to your students and sell it without any creation. You don't need extra stuff. A program that is based on voice chats only requires that you provide some kind of guidance on how to complete the task, and you provide the tasks, which are called prompts. They may be spoken prompts. For example, talk about the fears you have, okay, or talk about the worst experience you had when you traveled, okay, and then your student listens to you talk on the subject for 2 minutes, right, and then they try to mimic that, and then you give them feedback, and then they listen to it again and then re-record it, and this reinforces the development of productive skills. This builds confidence. um, the same thing with developing writing skills. You may give them the same kind of prompt, write about the first time you traveled abroad, and your student then writes so many words, and then you give them feedback, and then they rewrite. And we all know that good writing is rewriting. Any productive skills are developing when we are able to interact with the content and improve it. And with the feedback, we improve it over and over again. Now, when you create before selling, when you add extra videos, when you add extra explanation, extra grammar points, extra, vocabulary lists, what that creates is a lot more work for you, and you don't even know if the program is going to sell. Another thing that it creates is more work for your students. Paradoxically, as it may sound, your students may look at the materials and they will shut down when they see a lot of explanatory videos, a lot of workbooks, a lot of extra texts and audio lessons. So you need to be careful with creating before selling, or even creating too much stuff, which I will talk about in the second point. So the second point is the point of over delivering on content. So if you have a program that is voice chat based or Google Docs based, is very simple. If you're listening to it right now and you're like, how the heck am I supposed to be teaching this way? Well, I'm glad you're asking this, because I have a free class coming up next week. And in the description, there's a link you can sign up. But when you create a program, it's very simple. And sometimes it feels so simple. It looks so simple that you're like, there's no way. And teachers, as we are, we love adding more. We feel like we don't deserve to be paid a certain amount just for our expertise. We need to kind of prove to our student that we are good teachers. And so we add more materials, and then more materials and more materials. Well, adding more materials is absolutely counterproductive to a program, because by adding more materials, you're creating a Netflix out of your program. So your student now is going to spend more time watching your beautiful videos and PowerPoints instead of practicing the skill that they need to practice, and they barely have time to practice. And meeting with you once a week, um, or twice a week for for Zoom lessons is not going to cut it anymore. That's why teaching exclusively through voice chats and Google Docs actually helps your students improve way, way, way faster, because they don't have the distraction of teaching or working with you one on one. They can practice. And I know teachers say, well, this is very scary. It means I can work myself out of the equation. No, because students still need your feedback. And this is something you can give to them. So, adding more videos, adding more exercises, adding more um, worksheets, adding more of any kind of supportive material only creates for your students more work, which is going to distract them from the one single focus on practicing their productive skills, which is speaking or writing. And the thing number three that you do not want to do when you teach through voice chats is over deliver on feedback. When you create too much feedback, when you give too elaborate feedback, it might be good. Students will look at it and say, wow, my teacher is amazing. She or he's giving so much feedback for me. I absolutely love that. But the more feedback you give, and the longer and more elaborate your pages are with feedback or the audios, the more even the student that loves listening to feedback, it becomes counterproductive because they can't take this feedback, apply, and then self-correct. Usually they just look at this feedback as some kind of work of art. Wow, this is amazing. My teacher spent so much time giving me feedback. But they're not going to take this feedback because it's so exhausting and turn it to teach themselves pretty much. Why? Because it's just too much of it. And so in the program, or when I teach teachers how to teach through voice chats and Google Docs, I talk about specifically that we need to be very careful with how much feedback we can give. It's not about the volume. It's about controlling how much we can give so the person can take it. There is a lot of expertise that all of us share with the years that come from the years of experience teaching and also the years of training. And our expertise as a teacher is not in our ability to just dazzle our students with all the amazingness that we have at display. Our responsibility as a teacher, and maybe even a challenge, is to know how much to give for it to be enough. Because the moment you give a little bit more, you over deliver, it becomes too much. When it becomes too much, it's counterproductive. So your student is not going to use the feedback to improve. Your student is not going to spend the time practicing because they will be just overwhelmed with your videos. Your student may not even sign up for a program because they already feel like, oh no, a 300-page whatever, that's too much. That's too much for me, a workbook. And that was a real deal. There are teachers out there who create really elaborate, long workbooks. And finally, a bonus thing that I wanted to add as I'm talking about it and wrapping up. One of the things that you do not want to do is to underprice. Underprice your program that is voice chat or Google Doc based. This has happened to so many teachers. It has happened to me. When you first move away from one-to-one classes and when you start teaching through voice chats and Google Docs, you feel like, well, that's not like legit teaching. Like, because I'm not spending nearly as much time per student working with them. And so I'm just going to count up how much time I spend, and we tell ourselves a story that makes us really honest. And maybe it will be much less. And then I will offer a great deal. And so the students will definitely sign up. Yeah, the students might sign up, But the kinds of students that will sign up will not do the work. That's the first thing. Secondly, no matter how accurate you are about your time frame predictions, it will always be shorter than the actual time you will spend per student. And so that's why it's important if you're charging, let's say, $100 for 4 lessons a month, when you offer a program that has 0 lessons and only voice chat and Google Docs support, you charge the exact same amount. Maybe the first time you will charge slightly less, but over time you want to charge the same amount and eventually more, which organically will help you increase your prices per hour. Because when you have a thriving voice chat based or Google Doc program that you sell at $100 a month, you can no longer continue selling your one-to-one classes at the same price. There has to be a difference. So if a student wants just you and your time, your price automatically goes up, and it has to go up at least twice, because that makes a difference. That if I'm spending time with the teacher, then it's more valuable to me and I'm willing to invest more. If I am spending more time focusing on practicing and using Google Docs and voice chats, then it can be a different price, but it's still a price that feels like an investment to me, so that when I complete the assignments, there's a result. So that's how your students want to think when they enroll. Because if they look at it and say, oh, this is so cheap, like $30 for this whole program, and I used to pay $100, sure. And so they sign up, but then they don't show up. And whatever, and if you had created already the videos, if you add more videos to your program and add more materials, supporting materials, and if you are preparing humongous feedback, you will find yourself resentful and find yourself not wanting to continue with that type of teaching and going back to something that you no longer want to teach, which is one-to-one classes or group classes for that matter. Thank you so much for watching this today. I hope it will give you ideas. If you are totally like swamped in one-to-one classes and you're thinking, how can I teach differently? One-to-one classes seems to be the only option. Group classes is a nightmare with admin. Online courses, I can't do this. I don't know how to run my marketing. I have never done any marketing. And do not get into these like super expensive courses that teach you how to create courses. Because if you don't have an audience, it's going to be next to impossible to create and sell if you don't have an audience to sell to. So I invite you to learn a very simple, sustainable way of teaching through voice chats and Google Docs, how effective it is and how simple it is. And when you move away from one-to-one classes to this format, you will never go back. If you keep in mind that there might be these mistakes and that they're normal, and then you can correct them, and it will eventually be so much more sustainable for you. Again, thank you for being here. Sign up if you want to learn more, and I'm looking forward to the next video on this channel. Thank you until next time.